Dave, we're just here to really learn from Dave and understand some common challenges founders face with sales, as well as revenue professionals. And he also has this framework he'll be sharing with us on how to apply the Sprint playbook to address these challenges. Before I get ahead of myself, if you're new to the community, this is your first time joining our webinar, I just want to say welcome to B4B Partners. And here we are your partners for scalable revenue growth, everything revenue growth. We are here to assist individuals, businesses, and just support with the right tools, the strategies you need, and all-round support to help you achieve that scalable growth you need for your business. And today, we're just here to learn from Dave. Dave is a former sales executive at Salesforce, so he's coming in with a whole lot of experience that we can take to our businesses and apply right away. I'll just be going through his bio before I bring him up. So please, can you still hear me? Today's quite interesting. Can you still hear me?
Please.
It just came up now. Okay, so Dave is a seasoned sales leader with over 15 years of experience driving growth and building high-performing teams. He began his leadership career at Gen Video, a pre-revenue startup, where he personally closed six-figure enterprise deals with P&G, Unilever, Johnson & Johnson, then taught his team to do the same. He later led through significant volatility and helped stabilize the business, that's VLT, through its sales to Black. Dave then spent 6 years at Salesforce, mastering large-scale sales operations and management before joining Outreach, where he grew the East region from $1 million to $25 million, while leading new business expansion and renewal teams. Today, Dave is the founder of 100 Founders, a global initiative on a mission to help early-stage founders survive, thrive, and transition from founder-led sales. In the last 6 months, he has met with more than 200 founders across 26 countries, capturing the patterns, frameworks, and learnings that turn founder hustle into repeatable GTM motion. Dave holds a BA from Colgate University and an MBA from Babson College. He lives in Princeton, NJ, with his wife, Jessica, 2 children, and 2 dogs. Dave has a very interesting profile, and with all his experience, I'm just really excited to learn from him this evening, morning, whatever the time is where you're joining. So please, let's welcome Dave, and I'll be handing over to him right now. Dave, are you ready for us?
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready. Let's see if we can make the transition seamless. Should take a couple seconds, and then let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? All right. Awesome. Thanks so much for letting me join you. Stacy, thank you. B4B Partners, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm really excited. I think one of the things that's been really important to me as I've talked to founders is to get a really good perspective of founders all over the world. And so I'm really excited to be here. So let me just dive in. As you probably guessed from my accent, I'm from the United States. I live in a town called Princeton. So if you've heard of Princeton University, I live about a mile from Princeton University, so it makes me feel really smart. So as Stacy said, quick bio on me. 6 years at Salesforce, grew Outreach from $1 million to $25 million. I've had an opportunity to work at Meta. I sold a company to Blackstone and grew a company from 0 to 10. I launched 100 Founders because the biggest problem I see in sales is helping founders work through founder-led sales. And so that's kind of the impetus for why I started my business. I started over the summer. I just started talking to founders. I started having conversations, and I talked with over 100 founders in a 3-month period. Since then, I've talked to 120 more, but the research I'm going to show you is about the first 100. Everything is standing up the more founders I meet with. Where I focus is typically founders that are between 500K and 10 million of ARR. So think about that, like seed to Series A is kind of the sweet spot. And typically what I do is I do a 30 to 45-minute conversation with a founder. I don't bias it in any way. I ask the founder what they want to talk about, and we go deep on whatever their issues are. So that's a little bit about kind of the methodology and how I approach conversations. So let's dive in. So one of the things that I've found through all these conversations is there are 4 common challenges that founders face. All right. The first one is many of the founders that I meet with have never sold before. So north of 75% of founders don't have sales experience. So they're kind of figuring it out on the fly. And in many cases, what happens is, unless the prospect says, I'm ready to buy, or this is the next step that I want, the founder doesn't know what to do. So in many cases, you're like, all right, well, let's do another demo. So that's kind of one challenge that I find with founders. Another one is it's really hard to differentiate, probably more than ever before. There are so many companies that look the same. And yes, there are nuances, but it's really hard to stand out from that sea of sameness. So how do I get a buyer's attention in a world where everybody looks like me? The third thing that I'm finding pretty consistently among founders is many founders can't tell the difference between curiosity and purchase intent. So I talk to lots of founders and they'll say to me, I'm getting lots of meetings, we're doing lots of pilots. So therefore, I can feel confident that I have product market fit. But curiosity, right now, there's never been a time where executives feel more behind, who are more afraid of what they're missing out and admit they know very little about AI. And so as a result, people are taking more meetings than they've ever taken before. So sometimes getting lots of meetings doesn't necessarily mean you have buyers. And then the last thing is, when do you hire salespeople, right? When do you do that? One of the challenges that lots of founders run into is many don't like selling. Many don't see it as a strength. And they think to themselves, I got to stop doing this as soon as possible. And so they're looking for reasons to bring sales in. And in many cases, they're looking to bring sales in to figure out go-to-market versus to build on momentum of go-to-market. And that's a big challenge. So these are kind of the four challenges that I'm seeing. Can I get maybe some chat, some comments in the chat or thumbs up or something like this? Do these resonate? Is anyone on the line running into some of these challenges? All right, I'm seeing some thumbs up, so that's it's a good sign. So let's start with kind of challenge number 1, right? Challenge number 1 is I've never sold before. So what do I do? I'm not really sure. I don't really have a process. I go in, I ask some questions, I do my demo, I hope they buy. Like, that's what happens. So I wanted to give you 5 questions that you should be able to answer. And sometimes you get the answers to these 5 questions on the first call. Sometimes it might take 3 calls or 5 calls or more. But in my experience, there are 5 things that you need to understand in order to get a deal. The first thing is, do I understand the problem that we solve? And specifically for this particular customer, right? And most founders can get that. Where it starts to get a little more nuanced is the second piece is urgency. Yes, I understand this is a problem, but is it urgent that it's solved right now, right? And so I'll give you an example. And the example I gave when Stacy asked the question of what would I use the magic button for, and I said pipeline. So in many cases, a founder might get on the call with a prospect and they hear that there's a pipeline problem. And so the founder nods, they're excited. Well, we have a product that solves pipeline. This is a good fit. The challenge is that many of the problems that exist have existed for weeks, months, even years. And the prospect usually has a workaround. They've lived with it for this long. They don't really have to solve it anymore. They're focused on other things. So the understanding of why is it urgent that we solve this, right? And so one of the questions I always say is, what's changed to make solving this problem now actually matter? So that's the second thing you've got to understand. The third thing is timeline. Okay, so I understand you have a problem. I understand you need to solve it quickly. What's the timeline that we're on? And in many cases, founders get excited when you ask that question and you say to the prospect, when do you need to solve this by? And the prospect says, yesterday. And the founder gets excited because now they feel like they've got a real deal and they're ready to sign, they're ready to move forward. But the question that you need to ask when you hear that is, yeah, I understand that you want to do it fast. Yesterday isn't realistic. And anything we do will probably involve other members of your team. We'll have to roll it out. I know you have lots of initiatives that are going on. What would be a realistic time frame for when you'd want to solve this? And they'd say Q1. And so most founders would go, okay, they want to solve it in Q1, and they'd move on. But it's more important to go deeper. So what I would say is, well, Q1 means different things to different people. For me, Q1 means January 1st. For my CEO or my board, Q1 means March 31st. What does Q1 mean for you? And the person will say, well, probably somewhere in the middle. So I'd say, so like February 15th? They'd say, well, maybe a little earlier, like January 31st? Yeah, okay, January 31st. So I write that down. So now I have commitment, I have a timeline for when they'd want to do it. The next piece is value. You know, are we able to demonstrate an agreed upon value in the solution that we offer? And then the last piece is commercials, right? Have we talked price? But those are the 5 things that need to be covered. It's not always, you know, and this is a mistake I see lots of people make. We're doing a discovery call, then we're doing the demo call. A lot of this information is obtained over multiple calls. And you can cover discovery and demo potentially in one call. So there's no set what you cover on each call, but these are the 5 questions that you need to be able to check the box and say, hey, I've covered off on these 5 things in order to get a deal. The second thing I want to talk about is kind of the sea of sameness. So everybody is selling the same thing. It starts to look the same. So what people end up buying, what prospects end up buying, is they buy you. They buy their belief in how well you know their business, right? So I always like to start off with a point of view on the industry. So not, we work with companies that look like you or something that sounds generic. You need to kind of have a perspective on their specific industry, their specific vertical. That's what's going to make someone feel like you don't use the same pitch to everybody that you talk to. So you start off with kind of industry. The next thing you do is you look at data for them. You dig into their specific business. So, you know, I'm seeing a lot of the best founders actually scraping websites before they have a prospecting meeting to go in and have a really strong perspective about that specific business. Showing immediate value. So based on the information that I scraped, what insights can you provide? And then the fourth thing, and this is going to seem obvious, but most people don't do it, is maintain momentum. You know, when I think about deals and, you know, when I think about people on my teams that have sold, the deals that I feel most confident in are the ones that have most momentum. And I measure momentum based on the amount of time in between calls. So if I meet with a prospect on Monday and then 4 weeks later we have our second meeting, I don't feel that good. If I have a meeting with a prospect on a Monday and then Tuesday morning we have another meeting, I feel like there's momentum. So one of the mistakes that is often made is we have a meeting today on Tuesday, the meeting goes really well, and most of us are afraid to ask for time that's soon. So what we'll say is, hey, how does your calendar look next week? Later next week, versus, wow, sounds like there are a bunch of different ways we can help you. I heard the urgency in your voice. What's your schedule look like tomorrow so we can keep the momentum? The worst someone can say is, no, I'm busy tomorrow, but make the ask, right? So that's kind of challenge number 2. Challenge number 3 is, when you're hiring, everybody's got a view of how soon you should hire. And, you know, as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of founders that are uncomfortable with selling, so they want to get out of it and get back to building as soon as possible. So they look for reasons why they don't need to sell. They look for reasons to say, we found product market fit. But the reality is, you should, in my view, always delay hiring sales. Like, until you are so confident in the momentum that you have. Having a bunch of pilots and a bunch of meetings is not a reason to hire sales. Everyone's willing to take meetings. Everyone's willing to try pilots. When you start to have annual contracts that people sign on for at close to your regular price, that are non-customized offerings, meaning you didn't have to build a special feature to get someone to buy. When you start to have that, then you start to feel better. When you've proven a process, when you know what you're doing across each of your sales calls and where you're taking the prospect, those are things that you've got to do before you hire. I would strongly invest, for founders that are really uncomfortable selling and are out there trying, invest in a coach. Have someone help you. This is really hard, and this isn't something that's intuitive, or this isn't something that you can study and read a book and all of a sudden be good at. So having help actually really matters. And then the fourth thing is, eventually you're going to hire a founding AE, and this is a person that's going to help you navigate. This is a person that's going to help you build on the momentum that you've already created, not to get the initial spark, but to build, right? And so that's really important. And then the fourth thing we talk about challenges is curiosity versus purchase intent, right? So what's really important to get to this is, how well do you understand the initiatives that your prospects are dealing with? What are the big initiatives in their business? What's the driver of change? We talked about the example earlier of pipeline, right? Okay, I got it. You have a pipeline problem. It's probably existed for a long time. What's changed to make solving that problem now matter? And this third piece is incredibly important. If you don't know what's changed to make solving this problem now matter, stop. I think one of the things a lot of people who have sold less in their careers do is, if you don't know the answer, you just push forward and you hope you're going to find the answer later. But if you can't get this answer, it may not make sense pushing forward. So usually what I'll do is, if I don't understand that, I'll say, hey, I know that you're really busy, and I appreciate you making time for me, and I'd love to show you a demo of the product, but it sounds like your business is doing really well, and it sounds like maybe there aren't any changes that are taking place right now that are causing this to be a major problem, and you've been dealing with it for so long. Is it really okay? And they'll usually say, whoa, actually, it's not as good as that. I'm like, say, oh, really? So tell me more. Well, we're running into a challenge with this. Interesting. How long's that been going on? Well, and what drove it? And that's how you get into, but understanding the what's changed is really critical. So now we've talked about the 4 challenges. I want to talk to you about a specific methodology that I use in order to assess how a founder and a startup is doing and how successful they're going to be. So these 6 things I want you all to kind of challenge yourself on, but for your business. But I'm going to walk you through each one individually, right? And with any playbook, if you want people to remember it, you have to have an acronym. So my acronym is SPRINT, right? SPRINT. S is speed, right? In the world today, every executive that's out there that you're talking to, outside of revenue, is getting measured on how efficiently they are leveraging technology to drive their business. And every executive out there is looking for quick wins to show that they're doing just that. So when you walk into a business and you can get them a quick win, guess what's happening? Behind the scenes, that CEO or that executive is having a conversation with the board, and the board says, what are you doing to leverage AI to make the business grow more efficiently? And what the executive is saying is, oh, well, we're running a pilot with this particular startup to help us assess this, and this. We're getting results back quickly, and we should be able to show, some benefit to the business, right? You can attach yourself to that. That's a win that you can provide. Problem. We talked a little bit earlier about understanding the problem But again, most founders understand the problem that they solve. The next level is what's changed to make solving that problem now actually matter, right? The third thing are results. You've got to be able to show very specific, quantifiable outcomes from what you do. It's okay if you don't have them yet. You only have a few customers, they just started, that's okay. But you should be leveraging your technology on your own business. And you should be able to show that you're drinking your own champagne and that you're having success with it. The fourth thing, I, is implementation, right? Not only should the implementation be fast, but the majority of companies that you're talking to have smaller teams than they've ever had before. And as a result, they don't have the bandwidth to do the implementation themselves. So you have to be able to do the lift for them to make it easy. The fifth thing is niche. And this is a really interesting one, and one where I see a lot of founders run into challenges. You know, we're all used to going after the biggest possible total addressable market, right? Everyone wants to do that. But in this world where anyone can start a business tomorrow and can go after, it's really hard to outrun everyone, every competitor doing everything. And so if you think about back in the 1990s when Jeff Bezos was launching Amazon, do you think if he were launching Amazon today, would he create a retailer that sells everything to everyone? Or would he start off like he did, just selling books and expand from there? If you think about Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook and now Meta, if he were starting it again, would he try to be a social network for everyone on the planet? Or would he start off with just college students? And so it's really important that whatever your business is, you're really clear on the niche that you want to go after. And that's really where a lot of the value is. When I see the companies that I think are going to be best positioned for success, they're the ones that have a very specific niche, right? I'll give you one example. So one of the businesses that I see a lot of right now are call recording tools, right? And there are companies that are launching call recording tools, and it's an incredibly competitive market. I ran into one company that said, we're going to do call recording tools, but we're going to do it only for regulated industries, right? And so they've carved out a very specific niche. That matters, right? And then the last piece, which brings it all together, is trust. Trust has never been more important, and especially when the world is as small as it is today. If you're going to sell something to someone on the other side of the globe, why should they trust you when there are 10 other companies claiming that they can do the same thing, right? So this is kind of a framework that I've come up with. Again, SPRINT. I would just encourage everyone to kind of look at your own business and challenge yourself to say, hey, am I covering all six, and how well do I do it? And I think the one thing that you'll notice is, and this always makes some people cringe, I don't list product on here. Not to say that product isn't important, but what we've seen in the world today is features can be copied in a period of days or weeks. So you do have to have a very good product, and it has to cover all the things that a customer needs. But it's going to be harder for that to be something that differentiates you in the long run. So that's kind of the sprint playbook. So I think we're exactly, Stacy, at 30 minutes. So should we open up to questions, or where do you want to go from here?
Dave, thank you so much. And you even did better than 30 minutes. So we have a question in the chat. I think we can start from there. But please, if you have any questions, you can put up your hand or drop it in the chat, and Dave would be happy to take it. So this first question is, how do you prioritize which GTM channel to test first when resources are limited?
So let me play the question back. So how do I decide what channel to test when you have limited resources? So I think for me, and I should say most of what I do and where I focus is B2B. And so if I'm going under the assumption that it's the founder doing most of the selling out of the gate, maybe an AE or two, I have found that LinkedIn is incredibly effective. I mean, every business is a little bit different. I meet with founders, and I can schedule 20 to 25 meetings a week with founders just through LinkedIn, with no automation, with no kind of any crazy tools or workflows or anything like that. But I can do 20 to 25 meetings a week. I have found it incredibly effective. I think that, the thing that I would say that works for those that have tried LinkedIn or are thinking about it is, one, you have to find your voice. It's not about posting stuff. It's not about kind of whatever's top of mind. You have to think about what you want to post about. And when you think about that, I was trying to think about what is the one thing that you are uniquely qualified to talk about. We can all go into ChatGPT and ask it to write a post on a given topic, but what is the one thing that you can write about that, coming from you based on your experiences, would be meaningful, right? The best example of that and why that's so important is, imagine you want financial advice, and there's a post by Warren Buffett, and there's another post by someone you've never heard of. You're probably going to just read the Warren Buffett one. So you have to think about who is the audience going to see you as, and write the post and write for them and have a common theme. The second thing that many people miss when they think about LinkedIn is, it's not just about posting, because posting will get you access to the people that are already connected to you or the people that are in your orbit. Commenting is what introduces you to a new audience. So I would encourage y'all to, as you think about your prospect list, I would encourage you to start following your top prospects and see what they're talking about, and find a way to add value to their posts. I'd also encourage you to find the people that are influencers on whatever topic is important to you, and start to get in the flow of those conversations. It has to be genuine. We're not fooling anyone if we think we can just create AI driven comments and no one sees through it. So I would really focus on that. But to me, I've had a tremendous amount of good fortune on LinkedIn, and I would probably start there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dave. Sarah, I hope that answers your question. I'm also a big fan of LinkedIn over all social media platforms. For some reason, I don't know. Okay, Taiwo has a question. She says, I know you said you work with founders with 500K annual recurring revenue. Any chances of working with founders pre-revenue?
I mean, I never say never. I think the challenge for me is just in trying to. This is a business for me, and so what I found is that focusing on, if I try to do everything for everyone, I end up being less focused. So what I found is from 500K to 10 million, there are 3 phases of founder-led sales. The first phase is just the founder selling everything. The second phase is the founder and an AE, and the third phase is the founder, an AE, and maybe a seller that's earlier in their career. I think if we started to move toward pre-revenue and earlier on, it ends up being a different business. So just from a focus standpoint, I try to focus on the places where I can probably add the most value.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Tyrell, maybe to help with your question, so we have a bunch of resources and tools and things like that at B4B that pre-revenue founders can access. So since you're part of the community, we can share some resources with you, if that's all right. Okay, we have a question from Chukwemeka. His question is, what's your advice on sales for two-sided marketplaces, especially those for talent? I don't really understand the question, but Dave, do you understand his question? Or Chukwemeka, would you want to come off mute too? explain?
Hi, Dave. So my question, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yep, we can hear you.
Section, mobilizing the client side of two-sided marketplaces. So by background, I run a talent marketplace, and we have two sides, talent and the clients, essentially. So we have mobilized our talent side, but the client side is seemingly seeming to be difficult, right? And then a bit of information. It's the clients are those focused in the development sector, so NGOs, foundations, typically those who work in the mission-driven space, essentially. But it's been very difficult because it's very relationship-based, and I don't think it's amenable to system building or skill because it's based on relationships. So I don't know if you have any experience or advice in that area.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. So I think what I'm hearing you say is, I understand you have a two-sided marketplace. One side, it sounds like you're doing great on the candidate side, but getting the clients is the part where you're having a hard time. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes.
Yeah, so that becomes, in my mind, less of a two-sided marketplace question and more of a sales question, right? Because at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get clients. And I think in many cases, what we're all doing is we're all trying to stand out from, lots of noise and messages that are out there that our clients can get. I would say, one, just as I said earlier, LinkedIn can be a great way to connect. So you figure out what's your voice, what are the things that you're seeing. I've also seen in your space using all sorts of automation. So whether it be Clay or other tools where you can run very, very aggressive campaigns where you're scraping websites, you're gathering data, you're understanding, where maybe job postings have been open for a long time, and they're able to reach out to those people that have been trying to fill roles for a long time, offering a solution. So there are a number of different ways that I've seen in your space that people have been able to find clients.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing I'd say, I think on whoever had the previous question that was, I think was pre-revenue or before 500,000. I also have free resources that are available to everyone. So if you go to www.100founders.ai, I have a newsletter that comes out every Saturday with everything that I'm seeing in the market. So that might be another place you can get some information.
Thank you, Dave. Chukwemeka, I hope your question has been answered satisfactorily.
Thank you.
All right. Next question is, when targeting a niche, do you focus on niche within your country or internationally?
Can you say that? Can you say that a different way? I want to make sure I fully understand it.
Okay, so maybe in Voshe, I hope I pronounced your name well. Please, can you come off mute to ask your question so we're answering it the right way? I don't know if.
Okay. Hello.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hello.
So my question is, when targeting a niche, right? Do we target the local market, or do we target that niche as well as the international market? Because in my case, we are basically, it's invoice, so it's a bookkeeping tool, kind of like QuickBooks, but a whole lot more simplified, without the whole extra learning curve or requiring an accountant. And we have a few AI and smart features that we have also implemented. So, but the thing is, targeting the Nigerian market, right? Nigerians in general have this, would I say, they're adverse to subscription-based models unless it is proven to be profitable or beneficial, or maybe it's something that they can't live without, right? But the international market is more prone. They are used to paying for subscriptions, right? And our product is fairly cheap when converted to dollars, right? So I'm asking, do we focus on the local niche, niche locally, or do we spread our tentacles internationally?
I think, every business is going to be a little bit different. And let me play back the question to make sure I understand it. You're saying, as you define a niche, how much do you think about geography? And does that come into it?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. So every business is a little bit different. So I'll give you an example. Some geographies will say, we only buy from sellers that are based in our country. Right? Like there are many parts of the world that say, we want to buy from someone that's local. Right? There are other places where that may not be as important. So I think one of the things that you have to decide, or anyone has to decide when they're coming up with their niche, where are you best positioned to win? It's not where could you sell something to, but where are you best positioned to win? And so my general bias is to start smaller and be really intentional, because that's where you're going to sound different than everybody else. Everybody else is going as broad as they can and talking to as many people as they can. The founders that are most impressive to me are the ones that have identified a very specific problem for a very specific audience based on a very specific change that they're seeing in the marketplace. And they have a solution that's set up to solve that. Right? I think that the broader you go, the less tight your solution starts to feel.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Dave. So I think we have a few minutes to take some additional questions. So if you still have questions, please, you can drop in the chat or put your hand up. So we'll be taking this from Hannah too. What should a sales lead do if they realize their founder didn't find product market fit, but has hired them? This is very interesting. How do they push through to sell? Then the second part of the question is, how will the founders listen to the advice? That's any advice given? Okay, Dave, do you have any thoughts you can share?
If I heard that right, if you don't have product market fit and you're the sales leader, what do you do? Right? Is that, did I hear that correctly? So there are two things you can do, and then I'll tell you exactly what I did, because I was in that situation. Right? You can either figure it out and figure out what you can sell, or you can leave. Like it's that simple. I ran into that situation earlier in my career. I was brought into a company as the head of sales / first sales guy, and the company was selling media. So people would buy ads on our website. And at the time that I joined the company had 5 million high quality uniques a month, which you can sell in those days, you could sell ads against. And shortly after I joined, Google changed their algorithm, and our search traffic went from 500,000, from 5 million a month down to 500,000 almost overnight. And that's not enough volume to sell ads. So for me, I had a choice. I could leave, or I could sit down with the CEO and look at the assets that we had and figure out what's a different way to go to market, and a different thing that we could try. And we did it, and we were successful. And maybe it was a little bit lucky, but it was incredibly hard. And I wouldn't, it's a hard situation. There's no easy answer for it.
Okay, Hannah, so I hope that's some helpful advice there. Yeah, okay, thumbs up. Thank you. We have another question here. By the way, there's a form in the chat. So if you want a free one-on-one conversation with Dave, this is for founders, right? You can fill the form, and he'll be happy to chat with you. So the next question is, how do you design a sales process that anyone can run, not just the founder?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the sales process is created based on what you're seeing as successful, right? So generally speaking, when you're first starting out and you're trying to figure out what works, you're going in, you're meeting with a prospect, you're starting with a hypothesis or a perspective about their industry, what they've seen. So you're starting off giving a little bit of value, and then you're asking some questions in a conversational way to learn about their business. As you learn about their business, you've got to keep them engaged. So at some point, fairly early on, you're going to show them a demo of what you do. While you're showing the demo, while you're learning, you're going to learn a little bit more about what's going on in their business, their initiatives. You're going to learn about which people would need to be involved in any kind of decision. You understand, and you think about those 5 questions that I shared earlier, right? About problem, urgency. Think about those 5 questions, but it's really about figuring out, how do I answer those 5 questions? And then you're going to start to see what works. And one of the things, for those that have never done sales before, sales is really nothing more than pattern recognition. And the more scenarios you've seen, the easier it is to say, oh, I've met with someone that looks like this, that acts like this. When I provide this level of information, they respond favorably or unfavorably. And as you start to recognize more of these patterns, sales gets easier and easier. But in the beginning, you got to just get out there and try, and it's hard. But again, I would advise, if you haven't done it before, you're uncomfortable, get a coach. There are a lot of people that can help, because it's hard to do on your own.
Thank you so much, Dave. Very helpful. Very, very helpful. Okay, so we have 3 more minutes for questions. So if anyone has a last minute question, please, this is the time. Said was asking when the next revenue accelerator is coming up. That's next year. So there's a form in the chat. If you would love to be a part of the next revenue accelerator, please sign up so you can get an early slot. Okay. Any other questions? If not, I would be bringing up Napa right now. She has a bunch of goodies for us. Thank you so much, Dave. We're so grateful for you spending time with us today. And Taiwo is telling you thank you as well.
Oh, thank you.
Valuable to the community. Thank you.
Yeah, a huge thank you to Dave. I hope all of us actually got some value. We're very pleased to introduce him and welcome him to the community. So for those of you appreciating him in the chat or sharing emojis, we are super grateful, because we share the same sentiment. And just a couple of updates before we go, because it's never a B4B event if we don't have goodies that we're going to share. Because of my network, I'm going to turn off my camera, which is not my practice, but I just want to make sure that we all have a great experience. Like we've shared, they're going to be founder conversations that Dave is doing for free. So please complete the form. We're going to try and accommodate as many people that David can put in his calendar. But please, I'm craving for everybody's, kind of understanding if you don't get picked. If you do, you will get an email with Dave's calendar link, so you can schedule time. I really encourage us founders, because a lot of us do have challenges in the 4 areas that Dave mentioned. So you bring your problem and you're able to have that kind of insight into how to solve some of the problems. So please take advantage of this. In terms of our goodie bag, we do have some discounts and partner perks for you. We have Zoho credits valued at up to 3 million naira if you're a new Zoho user and you're thinking of maybe migrating. So please take advantage of that. I know Chukwuemeka, you mentioned about having a 2-sided marketplace. One of the tools that Dave mentioned was, Clay. We have a Clay tool, a Clay-like tool, Apollo. You get 50% discount on your first year. We also have AWS credits And for those of you that are still mapping customer journeys and trying to improve the customer experience, please look at some of the discounts we have on engage.so. So there will be a form filled with partner perks. Now, I know some of you are complaining, Evander, you're complaining about the links being broken. Please, if you registered for the event, you will get an email with all the links. But if you copy the link out, you're going to be able to click it. But please, we're going to share all the resources in an email after this. The second thing is there is a very light GTM template that we have for founders that we're going to be sharing as well. It's very quick. Like you can do your kind of thought process around your GTM in like 25, 30 minutes. So it's something you should look at for sure. And then, RevX is our gold standard session that helps you actually implement your GTM strategy over 4 weeks. So if you do want to X your revenue, RevX is what you look at. RevX is a 4-week program with 2 to 3 days in person. You'll get a lot more perks than what I've already mentioned, and then you'll get people actually helping you implement from sales from marketing to sales to customer success to be able to build out that engine. And one of our customers is actually one of the people that attended RevX was Better Power. When Better Power came in after the session, after the 4 weeks, they had 40% more leads. They had added almost 100% more customers within the 4 weeks, and they had efficient data-driven sales processes. So before RevX, they had a great product, but they could not convert any interest into paying customers. And through RevX, they were able to go through the entire GTM journey and actually start implementing experiments. The reason I love this quote is the end of it. Fahia said that this program gave me the confidence and tools to drive real results, not just look busy. So that's very funny. So for us in B4B, we believe revenue is your first capital, your customers are your first investors, and revenue is your oxygen. That is what makes your business breathe. So some across cohorts, we experienced a minimum of 22% revenue growth. Actually, there was one standout startup that actually had 890% increase in leads generated. And then we have 4.8/5 review, and all participants that have joined rate the program as transformative and practical. So please, the link is there. Sign up so you can be part of the cohort. It fills up very quickly. So please, once it opens, just secure your spot so we're able to kind of make sure that you get value from the program. I do want us to, give it up for our awards. We do an annual awards called the Africa Revenue Makers Award, ARMA. We launched this year our first cohort, and it was simply amazing. We did 5 categories. The first one is the Rainmaker Award. These are for the frontline professionals driving revenue growth. We have the Revenue Orchestrator Award. These are the people that are optimizing sales processes, our data guys that nobody remembers. And then the Growth Catalyst Award, our amazing marketers that give us great leads. And then Customer Hero Awards, Customer Success Professional. And then our sales leaders that are doing an amazing job on the field, Visionary Revenue Leader Awards. And the reason we created the awards, for all of us here that are in sales, we don't get recognized enough. We're only recognized when the deal closes for that little second. After that, they start harassing us for growth, year-over-year growth, asking us for the next deal. So this award is to recognize so many amazing members in our community. We had 25 people. Please go to our page. The link is in the chat. Let's celebrate them. A lot of them posted on their LinkedIn. It's also on our LinkedIn. So we're very excited about that. So please subscribe to our newsletter. Our community, the link has been shared. There's a weekly newsletter that goes out sharing information, frameworks, tools that you can use. You can always reach out to us for any support or help you need. So reply the email if you're thinking about something or you need some help around revenue or your business. And then follow us on our social media channels, our LinkedIn, our IG. Please hit us up and let us know how you are doing in business and also in the revenue field. And of course, we're going to be asking for your feedback. Tell us how we could do better, how we can keep on improving these webinars. And if there is a particular topic or a particular speaker you want us to bring in, let us know. We are here for you. So thank you so much, everyone, as we close this out, and have an amazing rest of the day wherever in the world you're joining in from. And thank you again, Dave. We had an amazing time with you today.